Hello, I'm Gautam Paul from NZ Blockchain Forums, and welcome to the third episode of Blockchain Bytes. Today, we are going to be speaking with Mark Pascall. Mark has spent the last 25 years in the software development space, and particularly the last 8 in the world of blockchain and cryptocurrencies. He's a founder of the thedao.agency, a consultancy company providing a range of services in the blockchain, decentralized governance, and decentralized autonomous organization space. He's one of the founding partners of the Meta Cartel venture DAO, which is a US $35 million international venture capital DAO. So Mark, please give us some more of an introduction to yourself, particularly how and why did you get involved in the blockchain crypto space in the first place?
Thanks. Yeah, certainly. It's been an interesting journey. As you said, I've come from a sort of technical background. I used to run a software company called 3months.com, and but part of that role was I had the opportunity to go and look at the shiny new technologies and emerging trends. I think it was in 2014, I went to a conference actually in Queenstown called Bitcoin South, and was fortunate enough to hang around some of the sort of industry greats at that time, and there weren't many back then, but Andreas Antonopoulos, he was down there, and spent sort of quite a few evenings chatting to him, and really got sucked into the rabbit hole. It was this sort of revelation that this was much more than a technology or a new currency, or this was a sort of a platform, a sort of a paradigm shift in how we could potentially organize ourselves as a society. So got very excited over that long weekend, and sort of got back to Wellington and said to the guys in my company, hey, we're gonna pivot, we're gonna morph from a sort of generalized sort of Web 2 software dev company into more of a blockchain Web 3 company. And so we went through a transition over the next few years, and we rebranded into blockchain labs.nz, and I ran conferences. The second one was in 2017, I think. Managed to persuade Vitalik Buterin, the founder of Ethereum, and about sort of 16 other key players to come to New Zealand. And so I spent an interesting week with him and Andreas, showing him around the country. I did some really cool stuff, and we really specialized in software blockchain auditing. So we helped companies all around the world audit their code and make sure that their code was doing what it said on the package. And but since then, so I left Blockchain Labs, sold out of that a couple of years ago. I worked as the director of the Blockchain Association for about a year, and part of that I've presented at Parliament, and I've worked on writing sort of papers for the New Zealand government, and I get hauled up on the TV every now and again when the price of Bitcoin is going crazy up or down. But I've also been getting very involved in DAOs, and this has always been a passion of mine. Is the sort of not so much the currency side or speculation side, but it's the how can we use this technology to better organize ourselves and around new forms of governance. And because I've also been very interested in, this is outside the blockchain world, I've also been interested in new organizational theories like teal holacracy, sociocracy, which sort of explore this idea that we can actually create alternative ways of coordinating ourselves that aren't based on this traditional sort of command and control hierarchy that we kind of assume is the only way to do things at scale. So bring us right up to date now. I am I'm one of the founding members of Meta Cartel Ventures, which is this fascinating experiment that's been going on for about 18 months now around a DAO, so a decentralized autonomous organization, and we can talk about what they are in a second. But we're one of the early experiments. We're essentially a venture capital investment fund. There's now 70 of us spread out all over the world. Our treasury, I think now, is around 85 million US in crypto assets, and we've invested in about 50 different startups. And but no bank accounts, no CFO, no management team. all voting and governance is all on chain, and some real interesting innovations around. I can press a button if I don't like a decision, and I can rage quit, it's called, and I can get all my shares out within 4 seconds, and I can.
Wow.
Yes, there's some really interesting innovation, and yes, I've been involved in a bunch of other DAOs, and also just started to get involved in the RAI Foundation. So I'm working with them now. So they're a fascinating new protocol where they've created a stable coin, so a cryptocurrency that is more stable, but they've done something very cool in that they create a stable coin that isn't pegged to the US dollar. So most stable coins are pegged to the US dollar. That's how they become stable. But of course, a bunch of people are saying, well, hang on, is the US dollar stable? So yeah, that they've done something else. So I'm working with the RAI Foundation around that as well. So yes, that's pretty much what I've been up to and where I am now.
Thank you. Just to sort of, I mean, what was the real game changer? Well, what was the moment when you said, right, this is what I want to do? You said you'd gone to this conference and you went back to the office and said, right, we're changing. Was that the point when you just, okay, we need to change? We need to make a huge step.
Yeah, it was, and it was a really, I'd been doing a similar thing for quite some years with my software company, and I'd always been, so we peaked around 20 people, and I was the CEO and founder, and along that journey, I'd always wrestled with the fact that as we grew, I just became more stressed, and I had consultants who'd come in and say, look, you should just employ people below you and create this hierarchy, but it always seemed to me just by doing that, it reduced our sort of ability to be agile, the more layers that we put in, and it sort of meant that I became more removed from the cold face, what was actually going on at sort of developer level. And yeah, it just didn't seem to quite resonate with my personality and what I wanted to do. And so when I discovered blockchain and these other alternative sort of management theories, it also came together. Actually, I can actually let go of everything I've been told, all the business courses I've been on, and all the sort of business theory that sort of underpins our society. Actually, I should let go of all that and open my mind up to completely different ways of doing things. And so, yes, that was really the beginning, and that conference sort of triggered that. And yeah, sort of started this journey, which went on for many years in sort of working in this new world of decentralized organizational systems.
And here we are now in a sort of completely different part of the journey as well. I mean, where do you think, if you look at sort of what's your take on New Zealand? Where are we here in Aotearoa in terms of, are we keeping up with the momentum? Do we need to do more, or are things going as you would expect it to?
Yeah. People ask me that question quite a lot, and I think it's worth just sort of reflecting on the fact that I think there's two. Well, the way I see it, there's two broad categories of blockchain projects. There's the sort of the corporate government use cases, generally, and generally I would argue they're sort of looking at their current systems and looking at how blockchain might make them more efficient. So the banks might create a better SWIFT system for sending money around the world, or the supply chain use case where we want to track sort of supply chain hops and make sure we've got a sort of common record. But generally those systems are permissioned, so you need to they've got some degree of centralization and control by a sort of a group of organizations or individuals who kind of trust each other. There's that sort of block of work, and there's some stuff going on in New Zealand, especially around the supply chain thing, and some innovative financial stuff going on. But I guess the world I'm more involved in is the sort of fully decentralized, fully global protocols, and these are the projects that are kind of more, I would argue, slightly more innovative in that they're sort of completely challenging how we do things, and they often live outside geopolitical boundaries. That's creating all sorts of challenges around regulation and law, and which law applies, if in fact the law, in a lot of cases the law just isn't being designed to to regulate these sorts of tokens because they're so different from anything else we've come across before. So that's kind of the space I'm more involved in. But to answer your question, I think New Zealand's, it's a small place. Yes, there's definitely some stuff going in the sort of corporate government stuff. There's not, but there's a lot of people, individuals scattered around the place who are involved in some of these global protocol development projects. So they're often, some guy in Christchurch or Dannyverk or whatever, or a bunch of people, but they're doing amazing things. And yeah, I mean, I often come across, in these Zoom calls or these Discord channels or Telegram channels. Oh, you're from New Zealand, and there's a surprising number of people in that space. But yeah, I think it's probably generally in proportion to our population. I wouldn't say we're sort of way ahead or way behind most other countries.
You touched on sort of other projects. What about something like Canon Coin? Because there's so many other different sort of, there are things springing up all over the place. What are the outcomes to date, do you think, for sort of the projects that have started off here?
Yes, I mean, so the Canon Coin project, or the sort of the broader name we've given it, is called the Wellbeing Protocol, is an idea I've been sort of mulling over for many years, and it's this sort of intersection of different parts of my life, the sort of the technology space, the new organizational systems, and health and well-being space. And really, my key objective was to try and use some of the stuff I'd learned in the sort of decentralized space and actually try and use that to help real people in a real situation. So often underprivileged, disadvantaged people in sort of low socioeconomic communities, and how might they benefit from this world, which is mostly benefiting nerdy young guys in North America at the moment who are sort of working at the leading edge. So how can we bring some diversity? And so really the project was the vision was, well, can we create a local economic community? Can we create in the form of a local currency along the lines of sort of time banking, which has been around for many years, is where you sort of swap hour for hour of time in local community, but sort of taking that concept to a whole new level. So we got some funding, ran a trial in East Poirua, where we convinced a bunch of people to install a digital wallet, which we created, which is like a dumbed down version of a sort of standard crypto wallet, but made it super easy to use. And we built in some basic governance sort of tools into that app, and we really wanted to sort of explore whether we could actually, within a very limited funding and limited time trial, how that would be received. And so so that trial went well. We got a lot of press. We got on the TV and the radio and all the newspapers, and it was really sort of caught the public imagination. And we're just really planning the next step, sort of raising. One thing we did learn, we need more capital, we need more money to sort of go a bit bigger. And so we're raising capital. We've just released a white paper which really talks about the bigger picture and the vision for the project, and also details that next trial. So that's kind of work in progress, but hopefully we'll see more progress next year.
Oh, thank you. What about with regards to DAOs? I mean, what exactly are they? Who uses them? What's out there in terms of DAOs?
Yeah, so DAOs, in my mind, are sort of the ultimate sort of end point of this world, which started in a in the form of Bitcoin as a currency, decentralized currency, and then it moved into dApps, so decentralized applications. And really the third sort of step in that evolution is actually putting lots of dApps together into an organization, actually calling it an organization. So a DAO, lots of definitions around. I quite like this one, which is a DAO is a borderless, open, transparent organization that aims to most efficiently achieve a set of purpose-driven goals through the use of independent agents driven by incentive mechanisms. So, and the way to sort of think about it is, comparing it to a traditional organization. So a traditional, I'm thinking a corporate or a sort of small to medium-sized business. Mm-hmm. So a traditional organization, people have employment contracts and that regulate their behaviors within that, regulate their relationship within the organization and with others. But ultimately, it all sits in this legal system in the country that they reside. And we have this top-down hierarchical structure. often, as I just said before, often with many layers of management and bureaucratic coordination. That's how we sort of do things within a traditional organization. A DAO is something very different, but similar in a way, in that we have an entity that is trying to do something in the world, hopefully something positive in the world. But a DAO is kind of the set of people, or it can even be things, interacting with each other according to self-enforcing open source protocol. So in practice, we're sort of encoding the rules around that business in code, but this is blockchain code. This is what we call smart contracts, which means it's transparent. It can't, everybody can see what's going on. There's no sort of decisions behind closed doors. And we can build in, voting systems. We can build in sort of automatic, value allocation. We can build in reputation management systems, but they're all transparent. They're all sort of controlled by code, not by a small group of people, in a boardroom or a senior management team. So it kind of reduces the transaction cost of management and creates a much higher level of transparency. And individual behavior is incentivized, often with some sort of token, to collectively contribute to a common goal or purpose. So I might, within this DAO, I might realize, if I share my passion and if I contribute to this DAO, I might build a reputation in that community, and I'll be given a token by that community for doing that. And that token might give me rights within that organization. It may be something I can, convert into New Zealand dollars and buy my groceries. It might give me reputational, whatever, how that system is designed. So, but what it does mean is that potentially these entities can actually live completely outside any geopolitical boundary. They can live on the blockchain, on the internet, and so potentially no legal entity is needed, and they can hold huge value. So there's this sort of Cambrian explosion going on at the moment of people experimenting with these DAOs and different alternative governance systems. So Metacartel Ventures, the one I mentioned, so we decided to actually create a legal structure as well. So we're a Delaware, US LLC, so that we could actually invest in that gave us certain extra sort of ability to do things. But there are plenty of DAOs that have no legal, they don't sort of touch the real world, as it were. They have no legal sort of equivalent going on. So so there's a lot of experimentation and a lot of debate around the legality and what laws apply anyway. But it's a pretty exciting space to be a part of, and seeing it's just completely greenfields place where you can throw out all the assumptions you had around how you run an organization, how you do things, how you motivate people, and so it's a really interesting space.
So let's take an example. Somebody out there wants to start and create a DAO community. And something like an environment agency group, for example. How would they sort of start that, and how would they staff it?
So I mean, many ways to do it, but just, for example, a few people might get together and they will perhaps create a traditional website, and they put their purpose. They want it because the objective is to build a community. So you want to excite other people. You want to sort of motivate other people to become part of this thing. So we're going to change. We're going to make the world a better place, or we're going to do this. This is our purpose. This is our values. You just put that up there, and then you probably want to create some sort of token economic incentive system. So you may raise some funds via through a traditional philanthropic source. You may put them in a treasury in the DAO. And but that's the simplest model, which we've seen a few times, is that you raise some funds, you put it in a treasury, which is all transparent, all in crypto. You may put it into a stable coin like DAI, so it's not so volatile. And then you say to the people, okay, anybody in the world, hey, look, here's our treasury, here's our purpose. How can you help us to achieve our purpose? So put a proposal forward. And somebody might say, hey, I do social media. I can help you get all over the social media space. This is what I'm going to charge, and this is what I'm going to do. So, and I would like some of your tokens. I would like some of your tokens to do that. So, yeah. So that's what they might do. And then many people may put many proposals in, and they might earn reputation by doing that. So they might earn governance rights, and they might then give them the rights to vote on other proposals. So you start to build a sort of a reputation system within that, and a value distribution system. So that's one example of a very simple system.
Okay, no, thank you. And what's your take on NFTs?
Yes, it's certainly hit the press. I mean, so it's worth just. So NFT stands for non-fungible token. So what's, and they've been around since Ethereum started, the sort of the first programmable blockchain. So, and it's worth just understanding. So, at its very simplest level, a blockchain can be thought of as this ledger, this database. But this database is unique in that we all trust that nobody can change it. It's kind of this community-controlled database, essentially. And once you've got this concept of an unhackable, unstoppable database, yeah, you can create a currency. That's easy. Excuse me, as Bitcoin did. But you can also so Bitcoin is an example of a fungible token. So as in, one Bitcoin is exactly the same as another Bitcoin, just like one $10 bill is exactly the same as another $10 bill. So it's a fungible token. But a non-fungible token is the other cool thing you can do with this global database, is you can record in full transparency to the whole world that I own this thing, or this digital asset, or even this real world thing. Or rather, I should as slightly nuanced in that it doesn't actually say I own it. It says that my public key, this long string of numbers that we use in the blockchain world, my public key owns this thing. So we can prove to the rest of the world that this public key. Then there's a whole other debate around, okay, well, how do we prove identity, and how do we link, me, Mark Pascall, is linked to that public key. That's a whole other sort of challenge and thing that's going on. But essentially, I'm a little bit skeptical, a little bit worried around this sort of first generation NFTs and all the hype. I think, when you hear about digital art going for gazillions of dollars, and there's a lot of hype, a lot of speculation, a little bit too much, and of course, it's very different from Bitcoin, for example, which has got programmable scarcity built into the system, 21 million. So you can kind of get that. If I've got demand, I've got scarcity, I've got value. But when somebody sells, a picture of a digital punk for a lot of money, you have to question what's going on here. I think it is partly pandering to this probably one of the worst human characteristics of this desire to show off our wealth. So I think these first generation NFTs is a bit of that, and which I don't really want to be part of. But I think as the system becomes more sophisticated, we're going to see some real innovation. The ability for an artist to get royalties, down the track from whatever. I think we're going to start building in much smarter ways to use NFTs than just simply saying, "Hey, I've paid 62,000 for this crypto kitty. Aren't I rich?" Sort of mentality, or it's just showing off. But I think, but it's also going to converge with the whole metaverse digital gaming space, which it starts to make a lot more sense. If I can prove that I own this spaceship or this set of armor, if I can transport that value from one game to another game, or even outside that particular game system, then yes, we can start to see why that becomes really important to that gaming metaverse world.
Okay, and it's 2050. Where do you think the world is going to be? I mean, what's your take in terms of, where do you think we'll be as a country? Or is it just too far away? We've got no idea.
Assuming we haven't been eaten by a virus, or AI hasn't put us in cages. I I would hope to think that this concept of sovereign wealth is good for humanity. This ability to create new, transparent, non-hierarchical systems. We can forge out a brave new world that is more positive. I think, but we've got a long way to go, and I think at the moment we've got this sort of quite quick evolution of the sort of technology infrastructure. It's a lot of problems. It's slow. It's painful. It's a bit like we're in dial-up with the internet, but we've also got a lot of exciting potential. I think that people start to see, with this dial-up system, I can start to see how Facebook might be created, or streaming video, or so we can start to see with this blockchain infrastructure as it evolves. We can see the potential to create new and better systems. The trick is to try and create those systems these new systems that address some of the bigger problems, like inequality. And I do actually think, the big problems like the environmental breakdown, the only way to fix that problem is going to be with some sort of DAO-like structure, something that sort of transgresses geopolitical boundaries, because the system is fundamentally flawed when you've got 200 countries with their own governments, elected or otherwise, looking after their own populations, and they don't get re-elected if they don't look after their own populations. You're always going to end up trashing the commons, which is the shared resources. So we're seeing what's going on in the UK at the moment around trying to get agreements. Yes, they're making progress, but I actually think we need another entity that is more powerful than Facebook, more powerful than the US government or the Chinese government, that actually is not part of the geopolitical boundary. It's part of this entity, a DAO, where anybody can join, anybody on planet Earth can join, and that DAO starts to build up huge funds and the ability to influence and just pay for stuff to get done. And that becomes this global system that might start to address those bigger problems. So that is my hope. And but who knows? It could all go very wrong as well. You throw in an AI device.
21st century version of the IMF.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Mark Pascall, it has been fantastic. Thank you for your insight and your honesty. And I'm really, really excited and looking forward to hearing your welcome address at our event, Trust, Traceability and Digital Trade, on the 28th of February next year. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Cheers.